Do not pass this message by. This message may save your life or may save you the health of your mind. Send this to somebody that you love. Do not, and I repeat, do not take anointed oil from everybody. I don't care what title they got. I don't care if you've seen signs, miracles, and wonders coming from them. Pray about everything and everybody. Do not take anointed oil from everybody. Story time. I'm going to cut out as many details as possible that are irrelevant to the story so that we can get to the point. In 2015, I moved from Florida to Georgia. Before I moved to Georgia, I had done business with a woman who was living in Georgia. We'll call her Miss Brenda. Miss Brenda happened to have her own ministry. I can't necessarily say she had a traditional church because she was kind of doing her church out of a hotel and she had 9 members. It wasn't a startup ministry from what I've learned. She had over 100 members at one point, but the majority of them had left. And yes, that is a red flag. Nevertheless, I had been in a cave for 9 years. By this, it means I had been unchurched for 9 years. And the only other church I had been a member of as an adult had been a church I had been going to in Mississippi, and I had gone there for 9 years. So after moving to Georgia, Miss Brenda immediately took me under her wings. She started calling me daughter. Now, if you know anything about the charismatic church, that means she was calling me her spiritual daughter. And she used to prophesy to me all the time. I remember after I moved to Georgia, I didn't feel safe enough to go to anybody's church, and she just kept putting pressure on me to come to one of her services. Eventually, I caved and I came, and she had service at a hotel. Again, it was just 9 people there. I remember when I left there, the Lord said, I didn't call you to this church. I remember rejoicing in my car because it just didn't feel right. And nevertheless, Miss Brenda had been really helpful to me. And I thought if nothing else, she would probably just be a mentor of mine. But I went with the flow of saying mother. Whenever she said daughter, I just went ahead with the flow with saying mother. I figured that the situation would work itself out in time. It was foolish on my part, but I figured that it would work itself out. So the year that I lived in Georgia, I can say I've been to her church maybe 3 or 4 times. So I just wouldn't go. We talked on the phone a lot, but I just wouldn't go to her church. Scene changes and in comes a new character. We'll call her Pharaoh. Pharaoh was like me. She was from Mississippi. Even though I lived in Florida for 5 years, I'm originally from Mississippi. And I met Pharaoh through Miss Brenda. I don't know how Pharaoh and Miss Brenda had met, but she helped her out as well. Pharaoh and her husband ended up moving to Georgia, and they started going to Miss Brenda's church. After Pharaoh and I met, we hit it off so well, we ended up exchanging numbers. So we talked on the phone, I would say once a week or once every 2 weeks. And we would talk for hours on end. One day, Miss Brenda ended up calling me, and she told me that the Lord told her that she was to go to Pharaoh's house and to anoint her house with oil. To go to Pharaoh, and we'll call her husband Joe. To go to Pharaoh and Joe's house and anoint their house with oil. Pharaoh had told me this as well. She said Miss Brenda was supposed to be coming by her house and anointing her house with oil. I did not feel right about that. I don't like people to put their oil in my house. I don't like to bring other people's oil in my house. Instead, I had already bought my own anointing oil and I had prayed over it. And I had anointed my own house. I did that as I was moving my stuff into the house, or right before I moved my stuff into the house. I remember somehow knowing that Miss Brenda was going to say to me that she needed to anoint my house as well. And I remember thinking, being as it was that I was unchurched, didn't understand like church politics and stuff like that. I remember thinking, okay, I want to tell her no, but how do I tell her no? How do I tell her that I've already anointed my house without creating offense? Now, the me that I am right now, I don't care about offense. You just have to be mad. But where I was at that particular state, again, I was new to a lot of things. And so for me, I thought to myself, how do I not dishonor her? All the while putting up a boundary. So I did what I knew how to do. I prayed about it. I said, Lord, if you don't want Miss Brenda to come to my house and put oil in my house, don't let her come. I expressed how I felt to the Lord, including the fact that I didn't feel right. And anytime I got on the phone with Miss Brenda, she would mention that she was going to be anointing Pharaoh's house, but she didn't say nothing to me about my house at first. And then maybe a day or 2 before she was supposed to go and anoint Pharaoh's house, she said to me that the Lord laid it on her heart to come and anoint my house as well. To be technical, it was an apartment, but that's irrelevant. So I went back into prayer. Now, don't get me wrong. I had my mind made up. I was going to tell her no because my spirit was not settled with that idea. To be honest with you, I won't go into the details. I'd already seen a few red flags as it related to Miss Brenda. All the same, I'm just not comfortable with the idea of somebody putting their oil in my house. The night before Miss Brenda was supposed to go and put oil in Pharaoh's house, she ended up, letting me know. She texted me or called me and said, hey, I'll be to your house after I leave Pharaoh's house. Again, I went into prayer about it, and the next day I woke up and I saw that I had a missed call and a message from Miss Brenda, and in it she said that the Lord had told her that she didn't need to come and anoint my house because I had already anointed my house. Prayer works, baby. But she had gone and anointed Pharaoh's house, and maybe 2 weeks later, Pharaoh left her church. Pharaoh and her husband got up and left her church, and I didn't know why Pharaoh didn't tell me. Miss Brenda didn't tell me much of anything, but one thing I remember was that she was offended with Pharaoh and her husband for leaving. And Pharaoh started calling me less frequently. We didn't talk on the phone as much as we used to. We started talking on the phone like every 2 to 3 months. But again, we would talk for an extended amount of time. And one thing I noticed about Favor was that she didn't bring up the situation between her and Miss Brenda. Like, she didn't talk about it at all at first. That wasn't until I had my fallout with Miss Brenda and I pulled away from her and I stopped going. And I wasn't even going to that church frequently. I will say that the time I was there, I went to that church maybe 3 or 4 times. But she ended up reaching out to me and we started talking about the situation. And I remember telling her, yeah, I'm no longer a part of Miss Brenda's church. And I remember she then kind of let out a sigh of relief, and this is when she opened up to me. She said, Tiffany, I've been praying for you. She went on to tell me, which I knew that she had lost her apartment. She went on to tell me that after she let Miss Brenda come in her apartment and anointed her house, she said that the Lord had warned her not to do it, but she just kind of ignored his voice. But she allowed her to come through her place and anoint her apartment. Not long after that, all hell broke loose in that place. They ended up losing that apartment. They didn't have anywhere to go. Her husband ended up losing his job. And there was a church that opened up and allowed them to come and stay at the church. They were volunteering at the church and sleeping at the church. It wasn't their official home church. It was just a church, trying to help them out. A church that they had turned to in their hour of need. She said that one day the church was having service and she was there and, they were there on some helpful type tip. And she said they had a visiting prophet to come into the church and he looked over at them and he said, you stand up. They stood up and they came to the front and he told them that he saw witchcraft running down their window. It looked like oil, that they had let somebody in their apartment that had put oil all over their apartment and it was witchcraft, and that's why they had lost everything. Obviously, she was shocked. She didn't know that prophet, nor had she disclosed to the leaders of that church about the oil, because for her, I don't think she associated that oil with what she had been going through at first. That's when I told her my story, and I told her, I said, I was praying. I didn't feel right about it, and I told the Lord, I was like, Lord, if it's not your will that she come here and put oil, don't let her do it. I told her, I asked God to give me the right words to say, should it turn into us having a confrontation about it. But I had my mind made up that she was not going to come into my apartment and anoint my apartment. Consequently, I kept my place with no witchcraft going on in my place. Miss Brenda had, on the other hand, laid hands on me, laid hands on my stomach at one point when I had gone to her church, which is why I remember thinking, see, this is why I don't be going to everybody's church, because they feel like once they see you in the congregation, I got the right to lay hands on you. And I want to make sure that it's God. But when she laid hands on my stomach, I remember feeling sick. From that day forward, I was sick for maybe 2 to 3 months. I started spotting. I went to the doctor. It turns out I had a cyst, and that cyst had to be removed. Not blaming Miss Brenda, but I am saying that it is a coincidence that I was well all the way until she laid her hands on me, which is why I go hard for this. Don't let everybody lay hands on you, and don't take everybody's oil and bring it into your house. Don't be anointing yourself with everybody's oil. I had a young lady come to my house one time because her husband had been putting hands on her, and I remember I let her sleep in my guest room, and I walked up to say goodnight to her one night. She had the bedroom door open. I was getting ready to turn in, and she's laying in the bed, and I saw a bottle of olive oil next to her, and I said, ma'am, what's that? And she said, oh, my anointing oil. I said, please tell me you didn't put that in my house. She said, no, I anointed myself. I said, oh, okay, just be careful. Don't be trying to anoint my walls, because I don't know the origin of that oil. So this is to say to you, some of you may have been going through warfare. You may have been going through hard times. You may have been going through a lot of things, and it has a lot to do with the oil that you use to anoint your house with. You got strange oil in your house, baby. Another young lady told me that she had used anointing oil from a leader, and she put it somewhere in her bedroom, and she kept having dreams of that leader astral projecting into her bedroom. I'm not saying you can't trust everybody. I am saying to be careful out here in these Christian streets, and don't be taking everybody's oil into your house, because some of you have oil smeared on your walls that was given to you by people who were jealous of you, people who hate your guts, people who see you as a threat, people who are dealing with lust. Some of your marriages may be under attack because of strange oil that you have taken and bought into your house. Some of your children are acting up because of strange oil. I dare to even say this, some of you may have even lost pets because of strange oil. Don't let everybody put oil in your house. And I need a favor of you. If you have a story of a time where you put oil in your house and you allow somebody to lay hands on you and weird stuff start happening, post your story in the comment section. You're going to help somebody out, believe it or not. And speaking on jealousy, I got this link in my bio. This is my new book, As Cruel as the Grave, Discerning Jealousy and Envy from a Smile Away. This book gonna change your life and bless your life. Be sure to go get your copy. I'm so serious. Here is a table of content. Pause to read. All right. Be sure to get your copy. Again, the link is in my bio. And if this message blessed you, I want you to put in the comment section, no more strange oil. Love you.